Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to EUphoria Season 3. I guess technically this is episode 10, but it's also part 1 of our playoff special. We are on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. You're listening to us on one of those 4 options. Timestamps, if you're on YouTube, are available in the description. In this special episode, we'll be talking to 3 of the 6 playoff teams, and next week, in our second part, we'll be talking to the other 3. This week it is SK, ORIGEN, and Splyce. SK is sitting with us now. But before we get into that, we do have a few bet updates. Frosk, we had some time with Jon Snow Yamato on Sunday. We sang some League of Legends karaoke. We've also learned that Yamato is a sick Johnny Cash, so that video will be coming soon. I took 2 pies to the face because Froskeren was sick. So that bet is also resolved. Once again, there's a video on YouTube if you guys haven't seen it. If you need a link, hit us up on Twitter. We'll relink it for you. We'll retweet it for you.
And I'm probably about to get a tattoo.
And Frosk, quick shot tattoo bet is on. Frosk thinks G2 will win. Quick shot thinks ORIGEN will win. And both those teams are in the running. So someone is probably going to get a tattoo. Fnatic winning is the only option where they don't get a tattoo. Personally, I think they should both get one, but that's not how the bet played out. Lastly, Kayle won the second place bet. He had ORIGEN, I had Vitality, and Xerxe had Splyce. So that one will be recorded, I believe, after a quarterfinal. It is a spicy breakdown challenge, so eat spicy food, break down a bunch of games, suffer. You cannot drink anything until you've finished breaking down all the games. So if it's a best of 5, you're actually doomed. So we'll hope, for my sake, it's not full 5 games. Maybe we get a quick 3-0. We'll see. But into today's focus, 3 mini episodes with 3 different teams. First up is SK. We're joined by Dreams and Warloop. Guys, really good to have you. Congrats on making playoffs. How are you guys feeling?
Thank you.
I mean, I'm feeling great right now. I just really want to play already versus Splyce. But yeah, so far it's all about how are those 2 weeks until playoffs start gonna be. Because if we will have to play right now, I don't feel that confident, being honest. But I think in 2 weeks we can learn a lot. So yeah, I'm feeling good.
And for me, it's feeling really great too, because for me it's first playoffs. That is first achievement for me. So I just want to be full try hard and get best result.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if you had to play Splyce on the day after you guys took down Xerxe, do you think that you would win, or do you actually feel that you need the full 2 weeks of preparation before you're ready to take a run at them?
I think we need practice for sure, because I think there is still some problems. We are facing it. And I think 1 week or 2 weeks can probably solve these issues. So I think we definitely need some practice, I would say.
Yeah. Actually, in my opinion, I think we will have stomped them. Just because, we were on the hype moment. That day we won versus Vitality, a really clean game. Then versus Schalke. So just that confidence that we had, that confident boost, will have make the change. That doesn't mean that right now, today, if we will play, it will be different. But yeah, I think we will have fun versus them.
I mean, you guys closed out the split really well. You smashed a lot of teams towards the end of the split. Were you surprised at all that in these final days that you guys showed up like you did, or did you know going into that Vitality match that you were just gonna smash them?
Not really. Because I mean, I was just focusing on myself. That let's just try to don't make simple mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think we actually just played really well without making mistakes. So I think that's why we stomped Vitality. I think that's the point, yeah.
I think the last 2 weeks of scrims, they were probably the worst of our whole split. So we were not expecting to lose, but we were not having high expectations. And actually the worst weeks of scrims were actually where we played better on stage. So
that's so weird. That always happens. It's like when H2K had that great Worlds run. They were not scrimming. The team environment was so bad that they could not scrim at all, and then they showed up on stage.
It's interesting because I know that when your guys' coaching staff comes in, one of the first things that I'll ask how scrims went for SK, and then depending on that answer, I'll change predictions, because I actually feel that you guys are a very momentum, emotional-based team, whereas if the scrims are behind you guys, I'm SK are probably feeling pretty good because you guys do have a lot of younger players or inexperienced players on the roster, so it probably means more to find that footing and find that tempo to transfer to stage, whereas I assume with more experienced rosters like Fnatic and stuff, that those guys can get thrashed in scrims and it'll probably still be okay regardless of what happens on stage.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, but it's weird because it was exactly the opposite. I remember 1 week we didn't lose a single scrim. We 6-0 every single thing, and they were not Rogue or Excel only. Like they were like good teams. And we went 0-2. Like we played really bad. Like it was really weird. Like this split, according to Scrims, we couldn't know our real level. Like the more we win on the Scrims, the worse we were as a team. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what's the difference.
only sometimes we just perform really well as a Scrim at the stage, but most of the times we just perform pretty bad. So
now at this point, are you like going to the next 2 weeks like, God, I really hope we run it down in scrims? Or, like,
I mean, winning Scrim is good for our confidence. It's really good, you know?
Selfmate's like, I've got double buff and I'm coming top and I'm feeding it.
oh God.
Makes sense.
It's cool, like talking about the coaching staff, you guys have obviously gone through, you know, a lot of changes over the course of the split. And with your most recent performances, it does feel like things are improving. How do you feel about your coaching staff? Can you talk to me a little bit about what it looks like now? Like what's changed for you guys?
They're like, I mean, I don't know if you want to take the question or I start.
You can just start.
So,
I will just try to add something if I can.
Okay, so at the start we had like Shippy, Unrealistic, who was like the more like analyst, but like more deeply, like about the more about like vision, picks, draft, but he wasn't really like coaching us.
Yeah.
But things didn't really work out. Like we were not clicking. Like obviously there is stuff I cannot say, but it was just not working. And then we needed to make a change because we could feel that if we didn't make a change, we would just not only not improve, we would just be worse. So like we made the change, and the only available option it was like Brokenshire, who was in academy team. So then he kind of came with us, and the main difference is not like Brokenshire. I think the main difference is that Brokenshire and Realistic they both work together. So they let's say like they work together, and that's the main difference between Shippy and Realistic, that they didn't really like, they were two really different like coach and analyst. So for us as a players, it was not like Shippy is bad. It was more like as a player it's really hard to improve when your coach and analyst are not even on the same page. Yeah, exactly. So it was like actually really hard for us. But then that's the main difference, I think, with Brokenshire. They were on the same page, and then I felt like we were improving much more. And yeah. And then at one point we decided to go with Realistic into stage because he's mainly focused on draft. So it was like it didn't make any sense to have a draft coach.
Yeah,
and then the other one was doing draft. So yeah, that's basically like the whole story with coaches. There's not much drama.
Yeah, I mean, we were just finding the best condition for us, and I think it finally worked well. So I think we just did a good change. I don't have confidence to say like this long, like Welip, you know. Few points.
I mean, it does feel like, regardless of whether it's the coaching staff or not, it does seem like, once again, things have done really well for this team. You guys' first split, you're making playoffs, continuing the trend of, I'm going to say, Spanish League teams. I know it's technically not the LVP. I know it's Superliga Orange. It wasn't always Superliga Orange. It's gone through name changes. But these teams coming in, we got it with Vitality, formerly the Giants roster. We've got it now with a lot of the pieces of the Mad Lions. Rising up and doing very, very well in these first splits. And now you guys are coming into playoffs, and I'm curious where you guys see yourself like in this top 6. Do you think that like 6th place is an appropriate spot for you, or do you think that like you're as good as 4th place? Are you going to be the kind of the team that starts to contest these really top teams? Where do you see yourself in like the stack rank of playoffs teams?
I mean, I'm not so sure actually. I mean, I think we have a lot of confidence when the game goes well, but I mean, just not sure. I think you can say.
For me, I think 6th place is more than fair because we have been so inconsistent. Like some games, for me, I was ashamed, watching these games at home, like how bad we played, like how insanely bad. So I feel like a split is like 9 weeks.
9 weeks.
9 weeks, yeah. So like you need to pay for it. It's like, for example, G2, they are first, even though like the last weeks they look kind of lost. But it's just because they played so good the first weeks that they can afford doing that. So it's for the same for us. Like if we had like so many weeks that we didn't play good League of Legends, I think it's fair to say that we are like a 6th place. Yeah, like I'm happy with it, to be honest. Like how the things were like 2 weeks ago, I'm really happy to be a 6th.
And now when we look at it, you guys kind of talked about like how when things are going well, you feel really confident about the team and like the team feels good overall. But now we're going into best of 5 where you can lose a game and you still have to win the next 3 after that, right? It's not like you get to play a single game and then regardless of the result, reset for like the next day. Are you nervous about best of 5? Like, are you worried going into this?
No, I think it's just we have a better chance to show like how much we can perform. I think best of 1 is just too short because if you just like fuck up like earlier, then you might don't have any chance to come back. But best of 5 is like you can just change something that they made mistake, and yeah, I think I like best of 5 more
Do you
than
guys
the best of 1.
feel that you have a diverse enough strategy to pull from that you can perform in a best of 5, especially against the other LEC teams? Because I think this is a point where a lot of teams will lose steam, where best of 1s, self-made can come in and blitz, or Pyrion can have like a great game. But do you guys think that you have a wide enough either champion pool or strategy or carry style to get through a full best of 5?
If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would say no, like for sure not. But for example, the last day, we played champions that we didn't practice at all, like champions that they were legit. Like the second time we played them in months, and it worked out. So I feel confident, especially for myself. I don't know. I don't want to jinx it, but at least in the past 2 years, I have like performed much better when it comes into like best of 5s, into like playoffs, when like the things matters the most. So I'm really excited. Like I'm not scared. I'm actually the opposite. Like I really want to play best of 5. Also because I don't know for my team. I know like for some of them, some games on leg, we were just not comfortable. Like I don't know the reasons, but we were just not comfortable on stage. And I feel like in a best of 5, it's actually hard to not be comfortable since you're gonna play at least 3 games. So maybe the first one, it can be like a warm up, but the second and third and fourth, or like as many games as there are, I think it's better for us, like as a team.
Which is, excited. I love best of 5. So anytime more teams are excited about best of 5, it's hype. It's my favorite time of year. I love playoffs so much. So Splyce didn't really choose you, right? Fnatic picked Vitality, but I'm curious, out of these, not the 1 and 2, but is there any team you would have preferred to face besides Splyce before we start talking about your quarterfinal matchup? Obviously eligible, you've got Fnatic, you've got Splyce, you've got yourselves, you've got Vitality, so somewhere in that 4. Would you prefer to face Vitality? Would you prefer to face Fnatic even?
Well, they spanked Vitality, so I would assume.
For sure not Fnatic, I think.
Yeah, for sure not Fnatic.
Even though we are like 3-0, it's them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to face them.
Yeah, like last weeks they're just performing too well.
Yeah,
Like,
they're scary. I was very surprised when we had them on the show. I thought they were done. So like they talked to us, they sounded sad, and the next week they started smashing people. So Fnatic is definitely scary. I understand that one.
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure about Vitality. Like,
yeah, we 2 against them.
Fastest game in LEC history.
Ooh la.
yeah, actually that game
That's
was
quite sexy.
Anyway, that's fair.
I think we know like how their style works, and I think we found like way to like face their style. So I think it would be preference for like Vitality, because I think Splyce, they've like same type of our team, like team fight potential, and I think they have Kobbe, like really good ADC. So I think their team fight potential is much better than like Vitality. So I think I would like to face Vitality if we could choose.
Yeah, actually, I'm with him. I will also choose Vitality.
So do you think out of all the teams that going into best of 5, do you think Vitality is probably the weakest then, the way it looks right now?
I think
Because Fnatic also wanted to pick Vitality, right? Or they did say technically that they would have picked Splyce, but that was mostly due to no surprises. They didn't expect surprises from Splyce, but they've also selected it.
For sure, I think they are the most coin flip team. Like, I think Vitality sometimes they look as a really strong team. Like they have been top 2 for like almost the whole split, but also sometimes some games they look like really bad. Especially, I think like the last weeks, maybe botlane, they don't look like working together at all. And I can understand why Fnatic also chose them. I'm not sure if they're gonna improve in these 2 weeks, because at the end it's Vitality and they have been a really good team. But if you check the last weeks, I can understand why they chose him overall.
If you had to put a name to Vitality style, what would you call it? Because everyone says, Vitality style, we think we figured it out, but what does that actually look like?
For sure, it's like crazy. It's like fighting 24/7.
Aggressive warriors.
They don't respect. They just don't respect.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like have only one shield and like a spear and just like,
Do you feel
Really,
like they
really,
bring the
really
shield
aggressive.
or the spear, and you just never know where you're gonna get, like where they're gonna show
I don't
up?
think they
Just
actually
throw the
bring a
spear,
shield.
you know.
Just throw the spear. They get one. They have one
Yeah.
spear and they
They go
throw the
with
spear, and it
yeah.
hits you and you die, or they miss and it's just over.
It's like
I'm not saying offensive way.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're good.
I like them. I like them.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think it's like regardless of, I mean, there's just truth in it, right? At the end of the day, like we've seen these wonderful performances from Vitality, and we've also seen some pretty XD games. I'd say the game against Excel, where it was just like they were smashing.
You know what? No,
and-
I'm about to call people out. I understand people want to grab like Vitality, but when I saw that Fnatic like snap locked Vitality, I'm just like, how could you do that? That team is always second. They always show up under high pressure situations. They've got weird fiddlesticks picks where suddenly you're playing like Echo in the mid lane or it's getting flexed into multiple positions. Vitality would be the last team that I want to fight in a best of 5 because I'm like, these guys are crazy. I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm not gonna risk my coin flip
God.
best of 5. I actually think it's just actually a mistake. Oh, I'm so.
we find out. I mean, we'll get Fnatic next week and we can hear.
That's
They
fine.
can- they
Those
can
guys will run
elaborate.
it down, but it just takes 3 games where they decide not to run it down, or even just 2, and then it gets scary.
It's actually so true. I look 5 games. I'm just gonna say I want 5 games for every series. I have no opinions. I'm unbiased. Just give me 5 games for every series. But focusing in SK versus Splyce. You talked about Kobbe kind of being a strong point for the team. He's obviously a pretty good AD carry. He's also here, so he's like right over there. So we'll
That's
get him.
what you can't see is that
It's really-
Splyce is right there.
Really good at making uncomfortable eye contact. But who do you think, if you look across the Splyce lineup, like, is there any one player outside of Kobbe, or including Kobbe, really, that you're worried about playing against, or do you think is like
Yes.
a big threat?
Underneath the Splyce gaze, who are you scared of on
Yeah,
that
this is
team?
also what's tough about Splyce being here. Maybe next time we'll mix it up, but like Splyce is literally right there. So like, don't leak anything, but please like give us a taste of some. What are you scared of against Splyce?
Like for me, I don't like. My opinion, Splyce just works well because they are all the players are just good. Like I don't think. I mean, yeah, I actually think Kobbe, not because he's here. Like I'm not being impressed, but like I think he's the one who is performing the best. But I think the other 4 are just like also like playing really good, and I think they just work as a team, and that's why they have, and I think 4th place.
yeah.
Yeah. So they are. I'm not especially scared about anyone specific. I don't know if Dreams is scared about Kobbe.
And only about the Xerxe champion pool a bit. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
want to
that-
face Nunu,
yeah, that's true.
you know?
Actually, that's true. Like, so drafting versus Splyce is not easy. Like you always need to like ban random jungles, or he will play them like Nunu, like.
Yeah, I don't want to see Nunu is like doing like snowball and just come through my lane and just putting me on pressure, you know? I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Do you think Splyce are actually the 4th best team in the LEC right now? Like, because we asked you guys if you thought you were the actual 6th best team. Where would you put Splyce? Would you say 4th is fair? Or do you think they're 3rd? Are they?
I think 3rd or 4th because they're just pretty working well as a team. And I think the synergy will just make them like look really great teams. So yeah, I think that's why.
I would put them 5th probably, just because I think Fnatic right now is so strong. Probably would be like after Fnatic, because I think like Origin, G2. But actually, no. Wait, I'm
It's
missing.
4th. That's 4th.
Yeah, I'm missing. I'm missing.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. I will put them 4th.
I was like, no, he's walking into this one.
Like
I was
Origin,
missing
G2 Fnatic, somebody, Splyce.
Yeah, okay, no. I will put them 4th too.
So we talked a little bit about like Vitality as a team, right? And kind of like the nature of their aggressive style, for better or worse sometimes. I'm curious what you think about Splyce, because they're a team that like the long game memes have come out a lot this season, and it felt like towards the end of the split we did see some really, really clean, really explosive games from Splyce, but we also saw games where it like kind of all fell apart. What do you think of Splyce as a team right now? What do you think of their style? You talked a lot about their synergy, but it doesn't feel like that's always shown through the split.
I mean, for sure, I remember some games that they were just not doing anything. They were just waiting, farming, and just going to late game every single game. But I feel like the last weeks, it hasn't been like that. And I feel like they rely a lot on team fights. That's also what we do, I think. So that's why I feel like we are really close teams. Like, yeah, I feel like probably all of our games will end up like being in team fightings. And whoever team has better will win.
Okay, then I want to cast your series because I love teamfight games. All right, to close this out, I want predictions from you on how your series are going to go. But rather than just saying it up front, if you gentlemen could hand me your EUphoria official playoff bracket, we're going to be asking.
So we asked the teams to all fill out a bracket. They're doing it in teams. So both Warlib and Dreams are both in the SK team. And how it works is that you get 2 points per best of 5. You
Up
pick
to 2 points.
Up to 2 points. If you correctly predict the winner, you get 1 point. If you correctly predict the score, you get another point. The team with the lowest score, Drakos and I are also included in this, will have to be the LEC cheerleader at MSI. We will assemble some cheers. There will probably be a video.
We'll make a video. You'll be sufficiently embarrassed. So the only goal in this bracket is to not be last. That's pretty much what we're all just. No one wants to be last because that's the only place where there's a punishment. And maybe the winner will be taken out to Korean fried chicken by me because I really want Korean fried chicken, and whatever, I'll take someone to fried chicken. That's the big prize of the other opposite end because you got to add an incentive. But to get into it, you guys have predicted a 3-1 for yourself over Splyce in your series. Why 3-1? Why the 3-1 score?
Confidence on team fight. Let's go.
Your confidence in team fights.
Then why is it a 3-0?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, there may be some cases that, many things can happen. So we just put it.
The new jungle?
So one game, Splyce get Nunu. The other 3 games, SK are coming on top. Okay, so SK Gaming, 3-1. That's hype. That's hype. As always, I hope for 5 games, but we'll see how it unfolds. What did we predict, Frosk? Frosk did our bracket by herself. She predicted 3-2.
So I was actually really on the fence with this one, but I just felt that SK Gaming didn't have enough in the tank for a full 5 series. I think you guys do really well in best of 1, and I do agree that it will come down to team fighting, but I don't think that Crownshot has a diverse enough champion pool comparatively to Kobbe if you guys are both team fighters. So I had to give it to Splyce because, probably on the Kobbe train right now. You can play Vayne, you can play Jinx, you can play Tristana, you can play Sever, you can play everything.
To be fair, they only have to play 5 games in the series because you wrote 3-2. You could have wrote 3-0, and then they only would have had to play 3 games.
It's team fights. That comes down to a coin flip. Someone has a bad team fight, it's over.
All right, I want to run through the rest of your guys' bracket quick before we go to Twitter questions. You predicted Fnatic to just straight up 3-0 Vitality. You guys don't even think that's even remotely close? Just bam, just they're just out?
Yeah.
I mean, Fnatic is
we
just...
both agree, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fnatic is just performing too well. I'm not saying that, Vitality is bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Just Fnatic is just overperforming just every team, every single game, so...
So is this the scene, have you guys seen Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
There's a scene where he's faces the swordman throwing his sword all over, and then
boom.
boom.
And then just shoots him. That's what it is.
Yeah, like that one,
That's so perfect.
Without shield.
It's such a great scene. It's so multi-purpose. We're going to post your entire bracket on Twitter so people can comment and interact with it, so I won't run it through for everybody in podcast or video land here.
But tell them who wins.
So in the end, SK win over G2 with a 3-2, which is hype. I love the confidence. But rather than touch on that, I do want to ask, you guys are saying G2 esports are going to 3-1 Origin. Why the confidence in G2? It's been a shaky couple weeks from G2.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I think it depends on I think if Mikyx come back, then I think they will perform much better. So I'm
Classic
expecting
coming from
on
the
that
support
one.
player.
I mean, Mikyx is insane.
I mean, he's a good player.
He's a good player.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to face against Mikyx because he's playing really good. So.
But they also lost with Mickey.
I mean, that's true, but I mean, performance will be better for sure.
For me, it's not about Mikyx. I mean, obviously it helps, but it's more about players like Perks for me or Caps. I don't think anyone can perform better than them in when it matters. And also, I think they said that they were not screaming that much lately, and also they were playing with a new support. And I don't know. For me, it kind of felt like they were not trying that much. I don't know. I at least I refuse to think they are that lost right now. I just think that they were more playing around because they were already secured the first position. But I think they will I think they will beat Origin. I think so. I see it.
I want to see it now. Of course, as we go through the rest of the playoffs, we'll check in on these playoff brackets. We may even invite you gentlemen back, depending on how your matchup versus Splyce goes, as we keep checking in with playoff teams. But people submitted questions on Twitter, and I want to give them some love before we say goodbye to you guys and send you on your way ahead of your prep for your matchup. Now, I want to start with Eric Lindell at EricMaster3 wants to know about pregame rituals and superstitions. Now, we haven't had you guys on. This is the first time we've had SK on the show. So, does SK do anything really weird before games? Because like I've heard OG behind stage, they say OG. We can do it a bunch of times, which is good
not
on
a bunch of times. They start shouting like a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
so do you have anything like that? Do you guys shout? Do you like have like a special song that you listen to every day?
No, I think we just play.
don't do anything.
I think we just play Mundo 1v1 and just try our skill shapes.
Yeah, actually, usually just go into into
Mundo
Baron
ball?
Pit.
Yeah, Mundo.
You go into Baron
ball,
Pit. Or Mundo, like 1v1.
Yeah, with the cleavers.
Yeah, exactly.
Does everyone do that, or is it just like do you guys take turns?
sometimes.
No, it came up like the last weeks. I think it was fun, but no, we don't really have anything special. I think so. We don't do anything like that's disappointing. Like
Not
we
even
just
like
go and we play.
special socks.
Special socks, special.
I mean, I change
someone
socks.
here, yeah,
You
someone
change
here.
socks.
Yeah, I mean,
He goes with
not right before the stage game, but just at that day, I just.
You're supposed to change your socks every day.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's a match day, I just change my socks.
What about like skins? Is there a specific like when you play your Alistar, do you always have to use a special skin or?
I mean, I'm trying a lot at the scrims that I want to find like which skin fits me most, and I find the Mu-Kawa Alistar
Mukau?
Oh yeah, Mukau's
with
classic.
blue
Which
skin.
milk? Blue skin.
Blue
Yeah.
skin. All right.
Okay.
It actually seems so good.
And you, Jax?
Is there? Oh yeah. What's the best Jack skin?
There are like few of them. I think
Just know that if you answer wrong, his Shin will flame you.
I
on
just want to
Reddit, I'm
say,
sure.
RNA was in the room when all of those top players got banned. I turned to him, I go, it's going to be the Jax game. He's like, there's no way he'll play it. I'm like, it's going to be the Jax game.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it already. When they picked Jarvan, I was like, it's gonna be a Jax game. But I think Jax Pax is actually it has the best auto attacks
Really?
out of all the skins.
Nice. Pax Jax, dude. All right. I like that you went with the most exclusive one, too. So the Jax players at home are like, damn, I can't buy that one.
We can't sell that skin. Pick a different one.
Say you really like Godstaff Jax. What's the
Actually,
most
the Hoggy one is actually really good. It's the one I always used before.
Nice. All right, guys. One more question, Frosker, and you had another question you wanted to ask?
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Will you approach the playoffs with the mentality?
Say who's it from.
Oh,
who's it from?
sorry. It's from Noah Shar at, oh, God. Yeah, forget that.
Yulway Law.
To all teams, will you approach the playoffs with the mentality of mastering one or a few strategies? Or are you trying to diversify, widen the strategy pool, and maybe come up with some special approaches? You got some pocket picks, you got some crazy. Are you just going to keep it close to the chest and go standard team fight? Remind, Splyce is sitting across from us.
Splyce is listen.
Blink twice.
You can also be like, we're gonna keep it under wraps, but we got something special. Just like maybe maybe you do, maybe you don't, but just
Ban Karma.
I mean, being honest, right now we don't even know what we're gonna do since we didn't start.
Yeah.
Like practicing, so we.
Yeah, we will slowly figure it out.
Yeah, we have
All
no
right.
idea. Like, we will be lying if we say something.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Thank you guys for joining us on this little mini episode. I'm excited to see your matchup versus Splyce. With Splyce having watched, I'm excited to hear what Splyce has to say about your opinions as well. So that's going to be hype. Is this a Saturday match or a Sunday match? Or Friday or Saturday? Oh my God, I don't know.
I think it's the first one because it's the lower seed.
We'll keep you posted on the schedule. I should know this, you'd think, but it's the off week, so we're playing it fast and loose here on the EUphoria podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll cut it here on these guys, and we'll jump into the next team in just a few seconds. All right, we are back. We are here with NukeDuck, legendary mid laner of second best team in Europe at the end of the regular season, Origin. NukeDuck, first off, welcome. This is the first time we've done a Hangouts/Skype/
It's quite intimate.
It's very intimate. How you feeling? How's life?
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm good. Where I'm in Copenhagen in my apartment.
Nice.
You have a separate
The
apartment?
physio just helped me set up everything, and now I'm ready for EUphoria.
He's such a good mom.
Yeah. Do you feel like he's team mom?
Yeah, but he's not around as much as Fabian. He's a normal manager, you know. But
So more the
he helps
absentee
more
father.
with, the streams and the camera and stuff. That's his forte.
Yeah. He does love the camera. All right. Well, you guys locked second place.
Congrats.
Congrats. Two, a lot of things came together to make that happen.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? What are your thoughts on getting second place?
No, yeah, I thought the same. Like everything kind of came together. like Splyce lost against Fnatic, Vitality lost everything, and we won. So I mean, we just focus on our games, you know. And if we win both our games, then good things can happen to us, you know. And that's what happened.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw your coach behind the scenes very much cheering for whatever team it would take to get you guys into second. You've now secured it. Do you have any strong feelings about the playoff format now that you've locked in second place? Are you like so happy that you can afford to lose a best of 5, or does it even matter to you?
Yeah, of course. The playoff format is like extremely favored towards the top 2. I think like the other teams are starting, you know, in the round of 18. Round of 16, right? Yeah, we can watch them a lot, and yeah, I mean, I'm happy about it. Yeah, of course, the format is great for us.
Do you guys think that we've asked this of the other teams on the podcast so far? Do you guys think that you are the second best team in Europe right now, or do you think that if you guys played the finals today or played the playoffs today, that you would win it all?
Second best team, then who would you assume was the best team, Fnatic or G2?
I mean, I don't know.
It's up to you. Who's the best team?
Like, where do you see yourself? Like, rather than looking at the standings, if you just did a stack ranking of the teams right now going into playoffs, would you be number 2? Is that fair, or would you guys be number 1, number 3? Where do you see yourself?
No, I think you will play playoffs right now. We would be the best. Yeah.
I don't
think G2 is a bit out of form, and I think we are a little bit better than Fnatic right now. So yeah.
So then, do you feel like it's bad for you guys to like not be able to jump into playoffs immediately and to have this time off when you are so much relatively when you feel like you're stronger than the competition right now?
Well, we would anyway play. You know, if we were to play earlier, we would have been the other games that we would anyway have to play in a while. So no, for us our spot is perfect. But yeah, there is a lot of time for everyone to prep different stuff. You know, we are obviously not gonna scrim G2, so we're both gonna prep something for 3 weeks. So it's a bit more of a guessing game. But so yeah, I think always if you're the best team, you would like to play, you know, finals today. You know, but you just kind of have to guess what they're doing and try to figure out what we want to do.
Yeah, and obviously new patch too. It's going to be exciting. I'm curious, when we look, before we talk specifically about your matchup versus G2, I want your opinion on some of the lower teams, the 3rd through 6th teams. Who do you think is the strongest of those 4 teams that are playing in that first round?
I mean, it's Fnatic, I think, fairly obviously. So yeah, I think Fnatic are strong, and then it's SK and Vitality and Splyce. I think. Yeah, I think Fnatic are strong, and all the other teams are like of similar strength. I think if Vitality kind of gets their stuff together, you know, they can be as good as Fnatic. But ever since, you know, EUphoria was sick and he came back, they haven't really, you know, played like they used to do, or like managed to play their way. I don't know. They just seem very tilted perhaps when they play. So I think they have potential to be good as well.
So is it fair to say that in the Fnatic versus Vitality BO5 that you have Fnatic winning?
Yeah, I have Fnatic winning, but I wouldn't be surprised actually if Vitality gets, you know, like everything in place again, and they manage to perform like they did before EUphoria went out sick, then they have a chance of winning that as well, I would say. Yeah.
Were you surprised at all when Fnatic like snapped pick Vitality? Did you think that was a risk?
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Yeah.
Because he's a smart man. I just scolded a bunch of teams of snap picking Vitality. I am aligned with you. I'm like, that's crazy. Those guys are crazy.
Yeah, indeed. I thought they would at least like wait and see if they could pick Schalke, or I mean, yeah, I would even pick SK instead too. Yeah, that was weird for me. They probably have scrimmed them a lot and have something more to base it off though.
Potentially, yeah. And I mean, it's just interesting to see that they were that confident. It does feel still like a big gamble in the end. Now we have SK and Splyce on this week. We've already talked to SK. We're talking to Splyce after you. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on that best of 5 specifically, and like what you think is going to be important to look at there.
Yeah, there's Splyce. I think those teams are quite similar, I would say. What's important there? I mean, I'm not sure. I think most they're quite evenly matched across the board, I would say. So I think the just better team will take it. I don't know what's really the key, maybe Chachi on tanks will be the key.
So who would you have winning, Splyce or SK?
I think I would have Splyce.
3-1, 3-2, 3-0.
It's probably 3-2. It's gonna be a thriller, I think.
Oh, dude, that's all I ask for. That's all I want. That's hype. Let's jump in on your matchup. Obviously, it's pretty far away. You guys have a lot of time to prep. What G2 don't look very strong right now, but when you look at the matchup that's coming up, is there anything in particular that when you look at G2 over the course of the split that you're nervous about, or that you're scared about coming into this matchup that could pop up again?
I don't think we're scared about most stuff, but when they have their full roster with Mickey playing, they're obviously stronger than with Promiscu, because Perks started playing ADC with Mickey as support, so they have like really good synergy because they kind of learned bot lane together, so they are like a much stronger duo than with Promiscu. And besides that, just have to like take care of stuff normally against G2, so it's like you need to make sure they don't pick a ganking jungler and they kill you too much early game, and it's important to make sure like Caps doesn't win mid, because when he has advantage, it's like really good at snowballing the game, even though, let's say, we're ahead in gold, but Caps is ahead, then he's still really, really good at kind of carrying the game as long as he has a lead. He's really good at using it, so that's what they have to take care about too.
You don't have to say which direction, but where do you think the biggest differences between the two teams, like top lane, bot lane, mid lane, jungle, if you had to pick a position? You don't have to say like G2 have a bigger or a better advantage here, or Origin have a better advantage, but just where's the biggest discrepancy?
The difference, yeah. I think probably the biggest difference is jungle. Like, it's just like playstyle wise. I guess Jankos likes to, he likes to gank all the time. You can see in this the last week and week 8, week 8 and week 9, he was, for example, ganking bottom at level 3, and then he would recall and he would not do any camps and he would run straight top to gank again. Whereas Jonas is more playing, more to get ahead of the enemy jungle and use that to more take over the map and take the objectives. So yeah, I think that's the biggest playstyle difference. Just Jonas likes to play more around one lane at a time and make sure he gets ahead of the enemy jungle, and Jankos likes to kind of just like gank as much as he can.
Now, looking at this matchup as like a best of 5, I think both of your teams feel like the team that I would not want to play against at a best of 5. It seems like you guys have so many different drafts and so many different plans, and G2 for the longest time have had all these flex picks. How do you feel about Origin transitioning from best of 1 into best of 5?
I think we have to work on it a bit, because we realized, midway through the split, that what some of the other teams are doing is that because you only play 2 games, right? You can almost practice the one draft you're going to play on stage, like for 2 days straight. So you can play like 12 games of the same draft, kind of. And we also heard that that's what some Korean teams are doing. And it's really OP for regular split to do that, because you will be like so comfortable with all the matchups you're gonna play. Everyone will know what everyone needs to do without even like talking too much about it. And we started doing that as well. Not like that extreme, but we started also figuring out what draft we want, and then we should already know it on Wednesday and then practice it on Thursday. So now we have to be more like broad with our practice. And it feels like G2 is already doing like the broad practice, and they're not one of the teams just practicing what they want to play the whole week. So we just have to like get back to what we were doing in the start there.
Sounds like sounds like a big task ahead of you guys. On top of trying to figure out a new meta. Do you guys feel like you have a good process with your whole setup to like figure out what it is that's going to be best to play, that's going to work out best for you as a team?
Yeah, I think the patch isn't that big. 9.6, not that the notes are not out, but I'm checking, on the PvE and stuff, and it seems that it's gonna be mostly the same meta. The biggest change, I think, is like the minion dematerializer. They're like reworking it a bit, but other than that, it's just like Sylas is getting a slight nerf because he's like really OP. Same for Zoe and same for LeBlanc. But then most other stuff stays the same. So, I think we will figure it out fairly quickly. But it's going to be up to the players and the coach. I don't think any like system can help us figure it out. We just have to make sure that we can figure everything out.
Yeah, just play on it. The Nuke Duck Infinite Champion pool is frequently a topic of discussion on and off the broadcast. So I'm curious, will Kayle, this is very specific for me, no one else cares, but you've played Kayle before.
Yeah.
Have you played new Kayle, and do you have opinions on new Kayle?
Yeah, I played it a bit, but I'm not sure like how like it can be kind of like a good counter pick, you know, because you can't really lane against something with range. Like any mage kind of just destroys you. And while you sort of outscale, it's really, really slow because you don't really outscale until level 16. And even then, if you're like actually behind the mage, you didn't really even outscale him. So I think he can work against melee champions where he can like take Klepto and farm, but against any like normal mid lane pick, I don't think anyone will play Kayle.
I kind of figured that was the answer, but I thought maybe you, the madman, would develop something special.
He was never gonna come on and be like, "Yes, Kayle is our secret."
No,
pick
he
in this
wouldn't say
best of
Kayle,
five."
but he could say Kayle is an actual champion that could get played. You know, which that's kind of what I wanted to hear.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like Caps plays it or some other crazy guy. I probably only Caps, yeah. If he plays it, I wouldn't be surprised.
You two are, I think, the craziest mid laners when it comes to picks. I think Xerxe is a close third, but when it comes to wild picks, I feel like you guys always have something special.
So who wins?
Caps or Nuke Duck?
No. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, yeah. Who caps Nuke Duck?
Yeah, but G2 Origin, who wins?
I mean, I think we're gonna win, of course. Just our recent form is better than G2's, and when it comes to mid lane, it just depends on like it's kind of a guessing game. I have to guess what he wants to play, and I will prepare my counters for it, you know, and he'll probably do the same. And then maybe there'll be some like next leveling as well. So it just depends who takes you the furthest.
Have you ever gotten to the point where you've started playing champions that you have no intention to play on stage in solo queue to like try to bait someone into figuring out a counter pick to it?
No, I'm actually doing like the level beyond that because I play on a secret account. So like no the enemy teams, they don't actually know which account I play on. So I just play like anything I want, and they have no idea.
I love it. I love the poker level mind games that come through in this. G2's going to take it. What's the score going to be? How confident are you? Is this a 3-2? Is this a slugfest? Is this a 3-0?
I mean, I said OG will take it. But
or OG, sorry, OG, yeah.
Hello? Our bracket says Origin take it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. No, I think we will win 3-1 against G2, yeah. So it will be a bit close, but not that close, you know.
Oh, man, is that what our bracket says?
No, it says 3-2.
Oh, ours says 3-2. Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear. Now I'm curious. Then looking at the next matchup, you say Fnatic and Splyce is going to take it. Who's going to face you in the finals then? Let's assume that it's like a Fnatic G2 battle to see who's gonna face you in the finals, or even Splyce, maybe a Splyce G2. Who do you think is going to face you in the finals then if you're taking down G2?
I mean, I think it's gonna be Fnatic and G2 in the other semi-final, or like at least like I'm really confident that probably Fnatic is gonna make it because I don't think Splyce can win against Fnatic. Like their playstyle is, you know, they play like slow and controlled, and they want to scale, but they are worse at playing late game than Fnatic, I think. And the thing with Splyce is that they draft really late game champions. So they usually win late game team fights, but I don't think they are like that exceptional at playing the late game. And I think Fnatic are better. So I just don't see how Splyce could ever beat Fnatic actually, especially in the BO5. So I think Fnatic is like almost locked at the semifinal for me.
So do you think that you're going to have another run at G2 in the finals, that all you have to do is beat G2 twice to go to MSI, or is it Fnatic Origin finals?
I mean, the thing is, Fnatic has to play like all those games, you know, against all the other teams, and they are, as I told you earlier, you know, about the tactic of like prepping really hard for one game, always playing the same. I think Fnatic is really, really using that a lot, where it looks like they always just practice that champion the whole week. I think they even said something along those lines. So I think that can be a really close BO5, but since they have to show everything, because they already have to play 2 BO5s. maybe G2 has like an advantage there. But honestly, I have no idea which team is like stronger at that point.
I don't know. The top 3 of Fnatic, G2, and OG is like the most hashtag LEC scripted thing I could possibly think of.
If Rift Rivals was competitive, we
Yeah.
are bringing the heat.
we are prepping hard for Rift Rivals. We do have some Twitter questions.
Are we actually qualified for Rift Rivals?
I think it's based on regular season. Is it regular season or is it final finish?
They have qualified for Rift Rivals.
You have
because they
auto
made-
qualified for Rift Rivals
top
because
two.
the lowest you can get is 3rd place.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, because we figured as much, you know. But when Andre tweeted about it, he tweeted like we're going to Rift Rivals. Some rioter told him to like don't tweet that because it's not like completely sure yet.
Oh, well, yeah, we don't actually know either. So
pretty sure-
trust that person in the sense that, well, we don't know, like, there isn't a Rift Rivals formal announcement yet. So
Oh, 'cause
they
might-
could change the format. They
Yeah.
could change other things. They could change literally anything.
I'm about 95% sure that you're going to Rift
I
Rivals.
I would give it a comfortable 99, but I don't technically know, so I probably shouldn't say that. But I'd say Rift Rivals is definitely there. Now, I'm going to...
I'll be pretty disappointed now if you don't go. Thanks, guys.
Rift Rivals question before we get into the actual Twitter questions. Which NA team do you want to beat the most and why?
Do you watch NA?
Do you watch NA? That's a good start.
I don't watch NA.
You know what? I mean, I watch sometimes. I watch like maybe TL or TSM games. But I think like lately it's a bit boring to watch it. But I think TSM are quite good, and so is TL. So yeah, I'll play one of those teams. I think those teams are actually like really good and would even like they would not even do bad in EU. I think. So yeah, I guess TSM or TL. I'm sure Mithy would want to beat TSM though.
Yeah, that'd be. Oh my god.
That's the redemption
We're definitely
arc.
getting ahead of ourselves, but yeah, the Sven versus Mithy, that's a first. That would be exciting. So getting in now into our Twitter questions, Victor Madera asks at Class1K Classic on Twitter. So for NukeDuck, how do you keep all your champion pool (parentheses Ocean) at a skill level that allows you to compete with other players that maintain theirs more manageable or smaller champion pools? So like, how do you keep such a wide champion pool at a competitive level? Like, is there something special that you do?
I mean, first of all, I have to play a lot, of course. But other than that, it's like if you have a lot of champions, it's you some of them you use as a counter pick, right? So like, and those that you use as a counter pick, you kind of only have to really know the matchup that you're going to counter pick. And if you play that a few times, then that's already enough. So, for example, with Swain last weekend, like I just had to know exactly how I want to play against Lissandra because that's what I was picking him against. And that way I won't need as many games because I just need to know like actually just this matchup. Whereas if you like your blind picks or like the strong meta picks, you have to have a lot of practice on because you're gonna like blind pick them, you're gonna play them in like many different matchups. But yeah, that's the key. Just like don't practice too much on the weird champions and just make sure you know the matchup you're gonna pick it into.
Cool. I like that. I sadly don't have that luxury as a solo queue player, so I feel like I should never develop a big champion pool. I'll stick to my like one champion at a time. But I like it for
But
competitive.
you shouldn't. For climbing solo queue, the best is to play only the same champions all the time. And
He's
not,
literally
like,
a
it's quite
Yasuo
simple.
Kane one trick.
I'm not. That's 2-1. That's 2 tricks. And I play Mordekaiser Leona bot now because that guy on Reddit complained about it, and people get really tilted when you play Mordekaiser Leona bot. But that's a discussion for another time. I won't make you comment on that one, NukeDuck. Last question from a guy with pants. His at a guy with pants with a Z at the
It's a
end.
good name.
I like it. This was originally for Deficio, but I apologies once again for tweeting that Deficio would be here. That wasn't confirmed. I misunderstood. It was NukeDuck the whole time. My bad. NukeDuck, how do you feel about kind of this refresh infrastructure and this infrastructure that you've had with Origin? And do you think this should be a standard for other teams in the LEC?
Well, I don't think that it's as much of like just a blueprint that they're using. So I don't think it can be standard for other teams because I think the people that are doing it for us are like they are very experienced and really like top at what they're doing. So normally, if for example someone from the traditional sports will come to esports, it will usually be someone that's like less successful or less experienced. But in Casper and his like performance team, they're all like highly successful and very, very experienced in traditional sports as well. So I think that's what makes it. I don't think it's like necessarily like a system they're using. I just think those guys are very, very smart about performance. So of course it's like a huge, bigger team that you can make in other teams as well. But I think it's just just a really good group of people that are doing it, and that's why they're successful at it.
Interesting to hear, like that the talent makes it, because I mean, obviously, like when Casper and these guys come up and they talk about what they're doing, it's much more they praise the system, and they very rarely are like, we're awesome. But it's cool. It's cool to hear the other side of that, where you're like, actually, the system's cool, but anyone can make a system. It's these guys running it that really make it special. Final question: who is your finals opponent, and what is the scoreline?
It's not from Twitter, right?
Nope. Just.
I think. I mean, it's basically a coin toss, but let's say Fnatic then, because we played G2 already.
All right.
And,
what's the score?
Yeah, and I think we'll beat them 3-1 as well.
That's hype. Is that what you have written? Origin 3-1 Fnatic. That's all. Frosk agrees with you. All right. Well, we'll get your full bracket posted later. But thank you, Nukeduck, for taking the time to talk to us and kind of share your thoughts on the playoffs overall. Super appreciate you taking the time, even from Copenhagen.
Yeah, it was nice to be here, remotely at least.
Yep. One day we'll actually get Deficio to fly you out, or we'll fly to you. It's going to happen at some point.
Let's
we'll figure
fly
it
to
out.
Copenhagen.
Yeah, that sounds way better.
We're
going to fly to
you.
Yeah, I think that's better as well.
All right, man. Thank you for taking the time, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Welcome back. I guess you've never left. In hindsight, but I shouldn't have said that. Welcome. Splyce is here now with us. But before, first off, Duke, Kobbe, hello, hi. But before we get into you guys, I have to go back to our previous episode.
Why?
Because the greatest gift of all time was given to us.
I can't believe you guys had it printed out and brought it to us.
Yeah,
That's our glorious manager.
Yeah,
Aw.
so super huge shout outs to Splyce and the management team at Splyce, because not only does Xerxe draw us an MS Paint drawing to help promote the episode, they then printed it on canvas. I know I have to hold it above my head like
It is huge. If you guys, you got to put it into the just down a little bit. Okay. It is a
massive
giant canvas that is covered in a beautiful lavender print with the Splyce members, and I'm even in it sick in the corner.
Yeah, you have a thermometer coming out of your mouth. We don't know where we're going to put it yet because it's really big. But once
it's
again,
going on the wall.
Thank you to you guys for being a part of Splyce, and of course, thank you to Splyce and
Thank
the
you,
Splyce
Xerxe.
management team, and for Xerxe.
Xerxe Da Vinci.
This man is an insane artist. It's unbelievable.
He spends hours every Sunday doing them.
Is this how he practices his mouse skills?
Yeah, exactly. That's a direct result of our coaching.
Some people play Osu, and he's just over there in MS Paint.
That's actually a good starting point. Kobbe, did you ever play? Are you an Osu guy? Or either of you Osu people?
I am, and I played it for a few years, but I had a long break now. But I actually picked it up recently, and I'm starting to get good.
Is it like? Do you think it actually? Because the biggest thing I was told when Osu started becoming popular is that it made you better at League of Legends. Do you think it makes you better at League of Legends?
I mean, I'm not really sure. I just played because I think it's fun and can download my own songs. So
You weren't like, I'm about to lock in Vayne, gotta get the hours in.
I mean, at some point I was sure there was like some difference, but nowadays I'm honestly not sure. Like I know it can help a bit. Like you can use aim booster as well on the internet, but I'm not sure.
I was hoping for an easy way to climb as a mediocre League of Legends player. All right, so welcome once again. You guys ended the season in 4th place. Now, there was a period in the middle of the season where I was like, this team's not going to make playoffs. Marty tweeted at me very aggressively to remind me that was not the case when you guys started winning again. Shout out to Marty. And then it ended in 4th place, which to me felt kind of sad because you guys were very much contesting 2nd place, and then it felt like while Origin got literally every good thing that could possibly happen, it felt like you guys were kind of... I mean, obviously the final game against Fnatic was tough, but it did feel also like a lot of the incidental games for the other teams kind of turned against you as well. How do you feel about that 4th place finish?
I would say our Fnatic game was pretty sad. I would rather lose the 2nd place just because we're the worst team than either them or Origin, but that was not really how it went. We just kind of lost the game in 3 minutes, so that blew a bit. And then... I'm not really sure, like, we were watching Vitality the day before, and they had to lose because we were worse head-to-head against them, and they did. So we were like, it's in our hands now, but then we failed in the end.
Yeah, I don't think the events were that bad for us. I just think that we didn't succeed at beating Fnatic in the end, and we ended up fourth. We could have gotten second maybe, but I think that's a fair place considering our current level. Even if I think we can improve a lot in the next 2 weeks.
If you guys got your hands on ORIGEN, do you think that you guys are the true second best team and that you just lost to the best performing team in Fnatic, or do you think that you really are the fourth, maybe third best team in the league right now?
I'm not sure as of now, week 9. I would say it would be close, since obviously they're really strong, both of them right now. But I would say, I would much rather say yes after these few weeks preparing for playoffs, because I know we have some more we need to improve on before I'm going to say that we're like the best team or top 2 team or whatever. I think we're definitely a strong team, but I'm not ready to say we're the best before in a few weeks.
Now, before we talk a little bit more about playoffs, I want to give you guys the chance to set the record straight on Splyce. Now, we've, as a broadcast, thrown a lot of criticism your way, and the community has thrown criticism your ways too. So I'm curious what your guys' perception is of the Splyce play style, and if it does match up with a lot of people talking about this Splyce go for late game, goes through. I've heard in the past it was a result of, you know, some mistakes in the mid game just force these games later and later. But now I'm curious, as we head into best of 5, will you guys actually prioritize late game? How do you feel about it overall?
I mean, I think there is a big misconception when we compare Splyce from last year and this year. I think both tend to go late game, but for different reasons, and that has been really overlooked. Last year, it was mostly because our really early game was terrible. I would say the worst in the league, laning phase in general. Now we have pretty good early game, but it's mostly our mid game during the early season and mid season that was pretty bad. So we had to fix it. It was a bit weird because it was the opposite from what we had in Scrims, where in Scrims we were really bad early game and really good mid game, but on stage we struggled a bit having this good mid game. I think maybe because we are a really young team. So we improved in the last 2 weeks, but I'm pretty confident that we can improve a lot on this mid game aspect for playoffs. And then just the late game part is just a consequence of us not being that decisive in the mid game and having always elements of late game in our draft to make sure we can, because we need the wins too, and having also Kobbe as AD carry, who is I think the best team fighting AD carry.
So do you think then that like drafting these more late game picks for Kobbe is just kind of like acknowledging, hey, this is a weakness we have, and we just accepted that sometimes we have to go late game and we need this insurance card? And does that change when we go into playoffs, when you're feeling maybe more confident in your strategies and you can pick something that's more early game focused?
Yeah, of course. I mean, my job is to win the games, right? So I need to do what I can to make sure that we win and that we go to playoffs. So I know that one of our strengths was for sure late game team fighting, but we tried a lot of new things. That's also, for example, we pulled out the Draven. Last game didn't work out because of the first 2 levels, but I'm pretty confident we'll be able to have this ready for playoffs. And I think we'll be able to play pretty much any style for playoffs.
Where do you think your mid-game shortcomings came from? I know in my conversations with Vedius, we felt that it was on Humanoid and Scarin, not knowing where to rotate to or how to set up it properly. Do you guys agree with that assessment, or do you think it's something entirely different? Does it change game to game to game?
I would say it's hard to put on specific players because, I mean, obviously it's as a team we're kind of lost sometimes. If one guy knows it, he should be able to direct the entire team to do it. But of course, like with them being sort of newer players, then let's say they have a few more years on the board, then maybe they would know better. But in the end, it's a team issue, I would say. And like for me specifically, I have a good idea of it, but I feel if we play 1v1 as an AD carry in mid lane and you're just there stuck farming the mid wave, and then you go look, maybe there's a camp I need to farm, maybe a clear ward, and I feel like in that position it's hard for me to direct the team. But yeah, as I said, I think it's hard to put on like specific players.
So given the time for Splyce to iron out your guys' mid-game and kind of the potential ceiling of this roster, if you stick with these players for, let's say, 2 years, like, what does the skill ceiling look like? Because I feel like a lot of the community will look at the members individually of Splyce and say, like, this is a hard-capped team at possibly 4th. Do you guys agree with that, or do you think that you could overcome through the power of friendship,
hot.
synergy, or team fighting to be more than that.
This is not. Do not make this the Danish Splyce. Let's kill the power of friendship meme before it gets started again.
The last time people said the exact same thing about the Splyce roster from 2 years ago, and now there is Kobbe, who is arguably one of the best, if not the best, AD carry in Europe. Wonder, Xerxe, Cold, and Mickey. So I think it's also due to the image that the team has, and I don't think this roster is capped at all. I think there is actually a huge margin of improvement I hope that we'll see for playoffs, but also for next split. So no, I'm really confident that our team can improve a lot, and has already improved a lot, considering that we are a brand new team with super young players. I mean, we have Chachi, but the other players are pretty young. So no, I'm confident we have actually a huge ceiling.
And one final question. Kobbe, you, as Duke was talking about, you're frequently that late game insurance. You know, you are the late game team fighting AD carry, the iconic one that people think of outside of when Reckless decides to have a Sivir game here and there. So I'm curious, does that feel like a lot of pressure on you when you talk about kind of being the guy that you know that if something goes wrong in the mid game, that late game comes down to you performing in team fights?
Not at all, I would say, because that's my favorite part of playing the game, and I feel like I've been in that position so many times from just a lot of experience. So in that regard, no. But as Duke mentioned about some misconceptions about Splyce, I think the biggest one is that sometimes, and it's not to make myself look better, but sometimes people say he only looks good because they only play around him. But the way you play around an AD carry is not stalling the game out and just waiting for late. It's by ganking bot lane, putting all your resources into AD carry, and that's like. So when I hear this, it's just if people they don't really get how you play around an AD carry. But yeah.
Who would you say are the top 3 ADCs in the league
As of now or in general?
right now?
I mean, I don't want to reveal my voting yet, but I think Upset has always been really good. I think Perks has done well this split. Patrick as well. And of course, like you have to mention Reckless as well, even though he had a decent split, but from what you would expect from him, I would say it's not up to that standard. And then, yeah, that's kind of my 4 go-to. Like I respected Attila a lot as well, and I still do. I think he was really good last year and gave me a lot of trouble, but this split, I feel like he hasn't performed that well. So
Interesting to hear the way the top has unfolded, and unfortunate for Upset that he wasn't able to make playoffs despite making that list. Now, as we look ahead towards playoffs, one of the first things that Fnatic said coming in after they snap-picked Vitality, which we'll get your opinions on in just a second, they wanted to pick you. Thoughts? How do you feel? Like, because I assume that's a lot of teams have been talking about trying to avoid playing against Fnatic. Are you in the same school of thought where you do not want to play Fnatic in round 1? Would you prefer to play Fnatic?
And of course, no team wants to face Fnatic in round 1 because the other 2 teams are way worse at the moment. But I'm not really afraid of facing them afterwards. I think there are. Like I heard Youngbuck in the cafeteria after the game saying that playoffs is all about mental and getting into the head of the opponent. So I think maybe what he did is a mistake. Just gave us more drive to actually beat them in the end. And I think we have the tools, even if we struggled a bit against them in scrims because of the very early game. I think if we fix our few issues, I don't think they are that strong. So yeah.
Dang, I like it. I like the idea because the biggest thing about Fnatic is once they start getting momentum, it's really hard to take it away from them, at least in the eyes of the public, because people are just ready, right? They start to crash, they're going to crash hard. The public is ready to sell them out, don't get me wrong, but they start to rise, and literally everyone and anyone will ride on that Fnatic hype train, and it does always make them, at least from my perspective, seem like kind of an intimidating opponent. You already talked about you're confident you can play anything coming into best of 5. Your first opponent is SK. You talked about them being one of the weaker teams overall. What is your biggest concern when you look at this lineup, this SK lineup? Is there anything that really stands out to you? Is it a single player like Selfmade? Is it a play style? What is, do you think, the biggest threat?
I mean, I think Selfmade is good, but I don't think you look at this team and you're scared of any of their players necessarily, because, I mean, why this team is good is not because of individuals, except for maybe Selfmade, you can argue that. But I think what makes SK good is that they play really well as a team. They always do the same. They don't really have big star players, as I said. So I think just team-wise, they work well together, and that's why they got to here.
Now, SK earlier talked about like he thinks, or Dream specifically was like, this is a game about team fights. Do you agree? Like, do you think that like when it comes down to it, will you guys, whatever happens in draft, it's just going to be all about these big team fights? Because they're obviously, you guys are obviously a talented late game team fighting team. They've had some talent in those late game team fights as well. Do you think it will just at the end of the day be Kobbe versus Crownshot and 4 other dudes like toe to toe at the Baron Pit 5v5?
I mean, maybe a bit, but not sure if it's entirely going to go like that, because then I don't really see much hope for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it comes down to team fights, we should have the upper hand. But again, we want to have all the strategies ready for playoffs, because SK are not the only team. And if you only prepare for team fights, for example, there is no chance that you beat a team like OG. So we are preparing for playoffs in general, and we want to have all the strategies ready for the playoffs. So maybe we'll have to try them out against SK.
Now, SK as a whole, like to me as a team, it feels like they have improved over the course of the split, and I'm curious how you feel about like individual 2v2 matchups, specifically for you and Norscare and Kobbe, because Crownshot and Dreams was really hard for me to get a read on, I'll be honest. Dreams seemed like a pretty proactive guy, seemed similar to Norscare in that he had like a good head for when to engage. And Crownshot is a guy who's had games where he looks unstoppable, and he's had games where he's standing in the exact right place 3 times in a row and, loses his team the game. So I'm curious, what's your read on this bot lane overall?
Well, I think Crownshot does well later on like stuff like Jinx or these late game carries, but I think in the laning phase, they, at least as a duo, I don't think they're close to us, basically. Like, in the first half of the split, I think we solo killed pretty much everyone, and since the second half, you can argue they got a bit worse with a bit more scaling champs and maybe not playing as well laning phase, but as a duo, I don't see them having a chance either. So
I like the subtle, like there's a lot
Subtle
of
flame.
Not subtle flame, but just like the it's like what you always deliver it very calmly and coolly when you're saying these confident statements, which is most people like when they're gonna say something as strong as like like these, oh yeah, if it comes down to late game team fights, SK don't stand a chance. They like eyeball the camera and they like make that moment. But I like that you're just like you're saying it like you believe it and you're not making a show out of it.
I mean, I don't want to be mean to them either, because we were just sitting here before when they were doing this as we're doing now, and they're cool guys. I don't want to trash talk them too much, and I don't think they're bad. I just think that we're better. That's all.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I like it because usually when people make statements like that, they always they ham it up. So I like that.
It is interesting, though. If I examine Crownshot and Dreams, it feels like Dreams is the more experienced member, and he leads that lane. Whereas between you and Norscaren, obviously if Norscaren's on something like a Braum, he'll do a bit more leading, but it actually, watching it feels like you lead it a bit more. Is that true? And do you find it harder if it is as the AD carry where you're trying to micromanage? Because you are, the most veteran member other than Chachi on that roster?
Yeah, I would say it comes down to like different things in the laning phase. I don't think I have to micromanage in that way. I would say he's on melee supports. Obviously, he has to look for the engages and call all-ins. I think that's his job. But obviously, I can see it too. But stuff like wave control and what you want to do with the wave, how you want to like pressure the map as a duo, then I think I take many of those decisions. But I think like for a young player, he has a good head for the game, and he can do a lot of good calls too.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of potential from this guy. Obviously, he's his time in the LEC up until he joined you guys definitely was not. He spent on Rocket, right? Like was not definitely not the or not Rocket. Who did you play for? Rocket.
Yeah, Norscaren.
Norscaren. Jeez, I forgot. I forgot that Wadid. I was like, wait, Wadid plays for Rocket. I was like, no, that was before. He played for G2.
He never played for Rogue.
I've been casting EU for too long. I get my legacy lineups mixed up. Regardless, so you guys also made a playoff bracket, and this one I find very exciting for a couple different reasons. I'm gonna pull it over here now. Obviously, Splyce wins in the end. That's great. Everyone's put themselves winning in the end.
Yeah,
Super
it
cool.
should be noted that all of the teams that we asked, true to power, put themselves winning.
Which I like. Now, you are one of many teams to put the Fnatic 3-0 for Vitality, and this is something we've been checking in with everyone about. Is that the thoughts of Fnatic snap picking Vitality? Do you think that that was like the right choice, or are you in kind of? I know you guys heard earlier, maybe this part as well, but Frostgren's in the kind of the school of thought that that feels like a big risk. Like, why would you just pick Vitality when Vitality are one of the more unpredictable teams, I would say, in this playoff?
I mean, the thing is, if you choose SK or even us, you might end up losing games that you don't expect to lose whether because of the late game of team fighting or anything. The thing is, Vitality, they want to be this early game team and they want to play for top lane, but this style doesn't work against some teams, and I would say against Fnatic, it's pretty much impossible for Vitality to win. The thing is, I used to be pretty critical of Vitality last year for their style in general, really chaotic. But I think this year actually they improved a lot on this. But in the same way, I think all the teams improved, and it seems that they are running a bit out of fuel at the end of the split. And I don't really see them changing their style, which is only through top lane, a lot of counter jungling early on, and then they fall off pretty hard. And I don't think they will be able to backdoor Fnatic. Like, you can do it on best of one from time to time, but this seems a bit too random win condition in general. So I think they're actually a better team than last year, and I really like what Vitality did this year, but I don't think they stand much chance against what the Vitality brings to the table.
Do you think they're better than SK? Because that was who their options were. You could either take SK, and maybe you can make the argument that Fnatic have already lost to SK. Maybe there's a mental block there, and you want to avoid them.
Not against Fnatic, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. I think Fnatic, they know what to expect from Vitality, as they said, and maybe they don't know that from SK, so that's like an obvious choice. But like how they did it was, I guess, just to show dominance, because it was a bit weird.
The Young Buck mind games. Hey, it's about setting the precedent. My personal favorite part about this bracket is that you've got Origin losing to G2. Why the G2 faith? I'm always curious, because and maybe I'm too quick to jump off the G2 train after the last few weeks. But why do you think G2 are gonna come out on top over Origin?
I mean, when I looked at Origin, I didn't expect them to be like a title-winning team already as of now. But I think by summer they should be stronger. But if they're second place now, that's a really good sign for them. But I think G2's biggest issue right now is with Mickey and him not being able to play. And I think Dream said it as well. Like, I think if Mickey comes back, and it's just really hard for me to see G2 losing 3 games with the kind of players they have.
Yeah, and the same way that I was talking about Vitality having one style, OG kind of have one style too, which is fully 1-3-1 and split pushing. The problem is that to do this, to succeed like this, you'll often have to have your solo laners, if not snowballing, at least being well in their game and not getting shut down. And I think that's exactly the wrong. I mean, against G2, that's sometimes really hard when you are playing against Wunder and against Caps. So I think G2's weakest link is actually the bot lane, and that's the point that OG can't really exploit, because they don't play at all for their bot lane, and I don't think they are really strong bot lane. So yeah, I think OG are definitely a really good team. They're playing really well as a team at the moment. I was expecting them to be top 3, and they are top 3, but I think they shouldn't match that well against G2.
I actually think people are using the whole Mickey thing as like a means to safely criticize G2. And obviously, like, I don't see everything behind the scenes and like scrims, and you always want to give your opponents the utmost respect. But I am kind of more of the mentality where I think G2's problems extend far beyond just Mickey being subbed out. I mean, obviously that's not going to help matters at all. That most recent loss that they had where Promiscu leaves the lane and then Luca just steps forward and gets blasted by Reckless and Hilly. That's like such a small mistake that only happens in that instance. But I don't know. I think G2 have run out of steam in that Caps can no longer just smack people down, especially in the matchup between Nukeduck. Like, if Nukeduck just controls Caps or just plays, you know, we're just going to wave clear here, then Caps can take over a map. But if all Origin do is play super safe, I don't know.
I think Dreams, I think it was Dreams who said it earlier. I don't think Mickey or Promiscu is the problem individually, but I think it's more how trainings have been going for G2, because I know that they have to rotate their support. I mean, I don't know how they do on day-to-day basis, but streaming way less has been a problem for them, I think, and that's why they look like they are running out of steam, but I think they will pick it up for playoffs.
I'm curious to see where they end up, but you guys still, in the finals, you're taking down Not only are you taking down Origin, it's such a heroic run to the finals.
You guys
if you make
go
the
through
entire
Fnatic,
run,
Origin, and G2.
This is heroic.
Yeah,
All
of them
all,
are
they're all 5
games.
games.
Yeah.
All of them are 5 games. So
Yeah,
talk to
late
me.
game.
Late game in the best of 5. Give me an overall thought about like all these are 5 games. None of these are 3-0s. Do you just feel like every single one of these series is going to be like neck and neck? Like how much confidence do you have in any of these opponents?
I mean, I would say obviously all of them are extremely good teams, and maybe you can argue that we don't have the highest chance of every team to win the split, but you should always have the mentality that it's doable. I do at least, and I would rather vote myself to win the finals than like I would rather cheerlead. I'm not sure how to say it, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you.
I mean, I think the advantage that Splyce have over all of the teams is your guys' consistency. At least for the last 9 weeks, have consistently been able to do, or at least execute on one strategy viably every single time. Where Origin was inconsistent, G2 was inconsistent, Fnatic hella inconsistent.
I mean, second half for Fnatic was pretty consistent.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. 9 weeks,
yeah,
Splyce
right,
were
yeah,
like a
yeah,
consistent team.
I mean, the thing is, I think we also have been consistently improving throughout the split, and none of those teams are unbeatable. So we identified their strength, their playstyle, and I think if we can prepare for them during those 2 to 3 weeks before playoffs, I think we have a chance against them. So as Splyce, if you don't believe in yourself, I would say no one will. So I think that I truly believe that this roster can, like, if we have the right training, can actually go all the way to the end, but we need really good improvement for playoff, but we can make it.
I like it. I like the confidence. I want to get to some Twitter questions, as a lot of people had Splyce-specific questions. A lot of people excited to see Duke and Kobbe. To everyone who sent messages about how handsome Kobbe was, thank you. That's not a question, but thank you. Kobbe, you're very handsome. The world, many people want you to know that.
There were like 20 comments.
It's a lot of
Thank you.
comments. So I had to get it in there, just for the record. I appreciate that interaction, but was not a question. How are you so handsome? Also not a great question, just for the record. Probably never going to ask that one. Love that you guys wrote it, though. So this one is from Splyce/Griffin Mandy. Can you pronounce that better than I can, Froskern? At
Moshing Yong.
Mushingyun, maybe. I always forget how to pronounce X's. Anyway, there's 2 questions here, but I'm going to ask just the second one because this one is the one I like. Who is the shot caller in the games? Who is like the most active voice in communication across the game? I know for some teams it's like a group, it's a collaborative effort. Like, who are the biggest talkers on your team?
Yeah, I mean, it should be like that. There should never just be one guy telling everyone, commanding his 4 dogs what to do.
When
I don't think that's
turning left, do you ask the front wheel which way you're turning, or do you just ask the driver?
I mean, sure, but
It's not a car. It's 5 points of action.
I think Xerxe has a really big voice, especially in the early game, and he's really good at directing the team through his jungle pathing and how he wants to pressure them up. And later on, I would say Chachi always has a big voice as well. And I try to step in wherever needed because as an AD carry, I don't like to be the main voice always, and I don't think I just don't think that's the way to go. But everyone should like chime in with whatever they need to do for their role.
If AD carry was the shot caller, okay, guys, I'm going to go top, I'm going to clear that wave. Then I'm going to go mid, I'm going to catch that wave. Then I'm going to back, I'm going to buy this item. Then I'm going to go top, and I'm going to catch the wave again.
I mean, in some cases, yeah, because the game, okay, let's say you're really snowballing through bot lane, or it can be any lane, right? Then you have the tools to carry the game, and you should direct your team and tell them what to do, because you have all the power to snowball the game, right? So if I'm getting really ahead, or we're ganking bot lane, then it's my job to basically lead the game.
I think double lift is a shot caller as an ADC, as far as I heard. So
What was that?
Double lift, yeah.
Oh.
There was another, didn't we have an AD carry shot caller? I can't remember.
maybe upset, but I'm not sure.
Upset. I feel like there was one more in EU history, but I can't remember it as well. But yeah, that always seemed like a huge burden to me, trying to be an AD carry and a shot caller. Because like, I can barely CS.
Oh, it's really hard.
It's really hard to CS and also decide when to trade. Like, CSing and trading is already so difficult. CS trading, shot calling, looking at where everyone is on the map, it just seems like an incredible burden. So, I mean,
Wei Xiao used to be a shot caller. That's why he also loved to play Ezreal, so he could have control over multiple waves on the map.
I mean, it's definitely doable, but what happens to most people who try to talk too much as an AD carry? They just walk somewhere randomly and
Die.
just dies,
Die.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the usual one.
I mean, I just don't think it's. For me, it just does not feel reasonable to ask that of any player to take that much on. But this kind of ties in nicely to the discussion about shot calling, and we hit on it earlier. But Splyce/Rogue Brackwin at Brackwin asks, to Duke and Kobbe, what's it like working with a relatively young roster? You've got 3 basically teenage players in Xerxe, Humanoid, and Norse Garen. Duke, like how has this experience been for you? Kobbe, in the past you were like on, I mean, the last Splyce roster, right, was all very young. Not the Oda one, the one before that was like you guys were all young and you were all growing up together. Now it feels like you are one of the more senior players. What is that experience like?
I mean, there's always, or like at least for this year and the year before, we had a good mix of veterans and some newer players. And as of now, it's like different from every single player how much you played. So I have like Chachi, who's like the oldest one. He has a year more than me, if not more. I'm not sure.
3.
3? I'm not sure.
Chachi's been around forever, man.
And then Xerxe, who used to be the young guy, but I already see him as a really experienced player. So it's like Humanoid and Norse Garen you look to as the younger ones. And yeah, wait, what was the question? How it is to work with them?
I mean, yeah, just what's that experience like? Do you talked about Xerxe kind of being more of a leader, not quite as much of that young player. Do you feel like you are a much larger voice in like helping other players develop than you have been on previous lineups?
It's crazy how much you've matured in like the short span of your career. Because while you are considered a veteran player of the LEC, haven't been around that long.
Yeah, I mean, I try to. It's something I actually want to get much better at because usually I'm really focused on myself and how I can play better. But I'm trying to work on how I'm pretty good with my support and working together with whoever I'm playing with. I like to play with Norse Garen. He's really good mindset, and just wants to get better. But for someone like Humanoid, I wish I could be a bit better at talking to him about stuff about the game and help him. So that's something I'm trying to work on.
Duke, from your perspective, I know from talking to Peter Dunn that like Peter Dunn loves scouting new talent, and it seems like this is something that the Splyce support staff is generally good at, is finding good new young players. So what is that something that you like are comfortable with, is working with a lot of these younger, newer talents and kind of building them into more? Or is this something that you struggle with as a coach? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
And I've always been working with all the teams that I've been in. I've always been working with really young players. So I don't know, for me it's kind of natural. Even last year we had Odo Kessing, but we also had Niski and Xerxe, who are really young. So this year we are really, really young. Indeed, 3 of our players are 18 or 19. So we have Chachi 25 and Kobbe 22. Of course, it takes us basically more time to learn because we have to learn from the start. So for example, when I see people talking about teams like ORIGEN, like Fnatic, of course their players have already done, like they are already used to shot call, they're already used to know the game, how to play the game at a really, really good level. So we had to start from the start with a lot of players, but I think we are getting there, and it's also sometimes more rewarding to play with, to coach really young players because they are learning a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far it's been going really well for you guys in developing this new talent, and I think that for me, from an outside perspective, it's just exciting to see once again just more and more new names come up or continue to rise. I'm glad you guys got Norse Garen. It's a player I had my eye on, and obviously it was like there was that period of time where he didn't have a contract. You pulled him back in, and Humanoid now developing well as well. But we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the playoff episode part 1. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Also for waiting, as you were the last in line to start recording.
Always late game for us.
Always late game. keep it in theme, folks. That meme probably won't die, but we'll do what we can to kill it, depending on how the playoff series go. This is part 1. Next week we will have G2 Esports, Fnatic, and Vitality on the show. Kind of in the same way we did this week, but thank you guys once again for joining us, and that's going to do it for us on playoff episode part 1. I'll thank them like 6 more times. I've lost track. We're done. We're out. Farewell.